You can't be serious, huh? Y'all ain't never stopping me. Let's go. It's fourth down and three to go. No time to waste. We on the road. No time out, baby. Do we huddle? No. We gotta get the rock across the goal. Even though it looks impossible, must realize it's another obstacle. Gotta learn to settle, keep room for growth. Turn it back now, not optional. This is the battle for my life. Win or lose, I done earned my stripes. Can't wish to get through every day without a dream to finish the night. Hate me for no reason why, cause you can't stop me between the lines. Can't feel the rhythm without me crying. You can't make a play, so stay on the side. One of those phenomenons. Black war paint test to block the sun. Give me the rock and see me run. Do all these dudes and you're for fun. Fuck what you thought, I'm number one. Yes, I'm clutch. Any weather, back to the method. Go say you're sending out, it's too many. Taker, breakaway speed, I'll see you later. Hate your touchdown maker, burn my paper. Bowling is my number one razor. Measure up better than all these fakers. Bury my balls like the Undertaker. Bowling is my number one razor. Measure up better than all these fakers. Bury my balls like the Undertaker. Y'all can't hear what y'all cannot see. I can take it to the house, fun to 50. Can't find a defender that's gonna drop me. It's all skill with no Hail Mary. And it takes dedication and much energy. That's not me, just got to be. Be true to yourself, don't ever deceive. Don't take no shit from anybody. Just strap it up and let's get ready.
Wake up, you ain't heard the news. Thank you for joining me here live on the Fast Break Sports Hour YouTube Live. A beautiful Friday, September 14th, I believe now. Man, we're already midway through September 2018. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm Fast Break, aka Jesse. Welcome to your special edition that I'm bringing to you, Football Friday, NFL style, previewing NFL Week 2, and that's all we doing. We talking straight up football. I'm going to run through all the games and kind of give you an idea of what I feel for each game and give you a prediction for each game as well. But before we get to the games on Sunday and Monday, unfortunately, I have to do this. I have to hold myself accountable. Yes. If you guys watched the show yesterday, I said the Ravens were going to win. I did this whole thing where I showed you guys why Joe Flacco is a better quarterback than Andy Dalton. I brought up all the stats, all the wins, the losses, the playoff victories, and why Joe Flacco was going to pull out the win yesterday. Joe Flacco turned into Andy Dalton yesterday. Andy Dalton turned into Joe Flacco. But let's be real with it. The Cincinnati Bengals, it was their home opener. Short week for both teams, but still you have to take that into consideration. The Bengals are hyped. They're coming off a big win in Indianapolis. They're happy to be home. Andy Dalton was off the chain, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. And before you knew it, when you looked up, it was 21-0 Cincinnati over the Ravens. And Flacco had thrown an early interception in there. So everything that I talked about, Andy Dalton and what he was and what he was lacking in big games, Joe Flacco actually didn't step up to the plate like he should have. But again, if you're a Baltimore Raven fan, no big deal. You know, it's a Thursday night game. It's a short week. It's week 2. You're still 1-1. You lost to a division foe on the road. Understood. But even when you were down 21-0, and I'm speaking about the Baltimore Ravens, they were still able to bring it within 28-23. And the Ravens had the ball with a little over 2 minutes left. And what's up, Pops? With a little over 2 minutes left. And I was talking about how when it came in the clutch, you can trust Joe Flacco. You can trust Joe Flacco to come up with a big game, to come up with a big play, to finish off a game, to finish off a drive, to complete a comeback, because he's done it time and time again. And how Andy Dalton would crumble under that kind of pressure. Well, with a little over 2 minutes left, Joe Flacco rolls out in the fourth quarter and just held on to the ball too long, didn't feel the pressure behind him, and got hit by Sean Williams, fumbling the ball. Bengals recover, game over, and the final score was 34-23. And yeah, I mean, the Ravens gave themselves a shot, but at the same time, they killed themselves with those costly turnovers, 2 interceptions from Joe Flacco. Still threw for over 300 yards, but when you look at the disparity in their running per passing, and I understand they're down 21-0 early in the first half, but once they were able to get to 28-14, they should have utilized the run game a little bit more. I mean, they threw the ball 55 times. and they only ran 22. You don't want that kind of ratio. You don't want that 5-2 ratio when it comes to pass run. Man, understood you're down by a lot early on and you're trying to make up those points. But by the time it was 28-14, that's the time you start adding a run in there, kind of slowing things up a little bit. At the end of the day, the Bengals only scored 6 points in the second half. Still wasn't enough for the Baltimore Ravens. And you look at the Baltimore Ravens' schedule here coming up. You got next week's game. They get 10 days off before their next game, so kind of like a mini bye. Everybody gets that after a Thursday game. Their next game is going to be at home against the Denver Broncos, and then the week after that they got to go to Pittsburgh, and then the week after that to Cleveland. So none of these are gimmies. You know, you might look at that Cleveland Brown game and say that's a gimme. So to me, not so much. These aren't the same Cleveland Browns. I still favor the Baltimore Ravens on the road in Cleveland, but not the way it used to be the last 3 or 4 years. Browns, and also depending on who the quarterback is that game, you don't know, maybe by that time Baker Mayfield's playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Tyrod Taylor, I expect him to do pretty decent here in these next couple games. But the Baltimore Ravens, it's a big spot right here. You're 1-1. You have a game at home next week against the Broncos, Steelers, Browns. If you're a Ravens fan, you want to come out 2-1 out of those 3 games, so you can get back to 3-2 as opposed to 2-3. Because the Bengals are off and running 2-0, and the Browns and the Steelers haven't lost yet. It's only 1 week into the season. They tied last week, but for the Cincinnati Bengals, what a start. To me, they were a team that I couldn't really quite gauge. I knew they had the talent on offense, but I didn't know if Andy Dalton could take that next step. Again, it's still early. 2-0 is 2-0, but they've been able to do it in the offensive side. You know, they've been scoring 34 points in both of these games. So that's a trend that if that continues, that's going to be enough for them to win games because they have pretty good talent on the defensive side when you got Geno Atkins up front and then you have Sean Williams in the back who had a pretty big game. He had 8 total tackles. He had 1 interception, a sack, and a forced fumble. That's a pretty big game. And if you remember, he got not suspended, but kicked out of the game on Sunday for that malicious hit on Andrew Luck, which was, rightfully so. I don't think there was any question that he should have been kicked out, but came back and showed why he's a force in that secondary. So again, the Cincinnati Bengals, they prevailed 34-23. AJ Green, man, 3 touchdowns, big game. All 3 touchdowns in the first half. He's never had 3 touchdowns in the game and goes ahead and gets the 3 in the first half. What I really saw in the game and the difference in the game was when Joe Mixon was in the game. Because he was in and out throughout the whole game. But when Joe Mixon was in the lineup, you can tell the Bengals offense was going. And when you had Giovanni Bernard, that's when they were kind of stalling. And I believe, though Giovanni Bernard had a better rush per average, Joe Mixon still had a pretty decent game. He had 21 carries for 84 yards, right at that 4 yards per carry mark. But when Joe Mixon was in the game, you can tell they respected the run game, and that opened up a lot of the lanes on slant passes in the pass game. And again, you saw that with Boyd and AJ Green, a little bit of Tyler Eifert in there. But Joe Mixon, bigger difference. Giovanni Bernard was back there. They really didn't respect the run, so they were able to, step back a little bit. They were cool with giving Giovanni Bernard 4 or 5 yards on the run as opposed to giving up the big passes that they gave up when Joe Mixon was in the game. So that's going to be telling to see here if Joe Mixon can stay healthy. That's going to be a big part to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's the one thing that they haven't had, though they've had Jeremy Hill in the past and obviously Giovanni Bernard. There's something about Joe Mixon. He just looks like a complete football player. He looks like that running back that can carry the load. He can help you out in the pass game. Young running back still. But if he can stay healthy, man, the Bengals are going to be something to be reckoned with if they continue to play this way and don't fall into their old ways. So Ravens, I have them winning this division. So I'm sticking with that. I'm not going to change at this point, especially after week 2. But they do have a pretty tough stretch here in these next 2 or 3 games, just because 2 of the 3 games are on the road. And then the next week game, we'll see how the Denver Broncos play this weekend against the Oakland Raiders, be able to, kind of tell a little bit more if that Raven-Bronco game is going to be bigger than what was expected coming into the season. But with that, let's get right into it. Let's get right into week 2 and Sunday's matchups. And right off the bat, you look at Aaron Rodgers, you're asking, is he going to play? Didn't practice today again. Devontae Adams didn't practice today again. They're going to try to practice tomorrow. Not a sure thing. But even if Aaron Rodgers does not practice, that doesn't mean he's not going to play on Sunday. That's what the coach for the Green Bay Packers had mentioned, that just because he doesn't practice, it doesn't mean that he's not going to play. You know, if they're trying to make sure they get him healed up right for the game, maybe get a little shot in there to block the pain in the knee. Because if it's a sprain, it's a sprain. I mean, it's going to heal when it's going to heal. You could ice it as much as you want to minimize the swelling, but I'm not a doctor. But I'm just giving y'all the real. It's probably going to need a shot before the game if he hasn't been able to practice and he decides to play. But with that being said, the Green Bay Packers, obviously with Aaron Rodgers, have a better shot at beating the Vikings than any shot with Deshaun Kaiser. If Deshaun Kaiser rolls out that game and he's the starting quarterback, it's over. The Packers will have no shot. I'll give them zero shot to beat the Minnesota Vikings. With Aaron Rodgers, I give them a slight shot. I think it's going to be a close game with Aaron Rodgers in the lineup. I don't really see any team pulling away from this one. Kirk Cousins showed why he was given the contract he was given this offseason. By the way he played last week, he was on point against the San Francisco 49ers. No mistakes. He was accurate. That's what Kirk Cousins does. Beautiful, beautiful throws he was making. And against this Green Bay Packer defense, I don't expect anything less than continued growth in that offense with Dalvin Cook, with Stephon Diggs, with Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph. He has the weapons around him. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I'm still going to give the slight edge to the Green Bay Packers because the game is in Lambeau Field. You still have to give it up to that crowd. And Aaron Rodgers is just a different monster when he plays at home. And let's not make any bones about it. When he came back into the game against the Chicago Bears, man, they gave him something because not only did he have no pain, but that dude was like in euphoria. It's like they gave him some special drug because you can tell he was happy after the game. He was excited. You know, he was just smiling. So you have to wonder, are they going to do that again? I would. Whatever they gave him last week, give it to him again. You know, slip him a pill, whatever it takes. Because that Aaron Rodgers in that fourth quarter was incredible. And if you give me that Aaron Rodgers, if you give me 75% of that Aaron Rodgers, man, I think the Packers will have something going on here. And as I was looking at it as well, it seemed like the Packers offense in that fourth quarter was better than when he was healthy. And obviously it's a small sample size compared to obviously when he's always healthy. But just in that game, in the first half, before he took the injury to the knee, because it looked like he hurt the knee before it got landed on, but it just looked like that offense was built to stay in the pocket. And we know Aaron Rodgers likes to roll out and likes to create, and that's when he's at his best. But when he came back in that fourth quarter, because he wasn't able to be as mobile, he had to stay in the pocket. And though he still had to let the plays develop, it looked like the offense ran a little bit better. You saw a lot more bigger plays. So you have to wonder if that's going to be part of it, if he's just going to stick in the pocket. But this is a different defense. Yeah, the Bears had Khalil Mack, but when you look at the Vikings, this is a ferocious defense overall. So I think it's going to be a back and forth game, but close to the vest, and I don't see anybody pulling away. And mind you, if Aaron Rodgers plays, this is why I'm predicting it the way it's going to be. I got the Green Bay Packers beating the Minnesota Vikings 23-20, last second field goal. It's going to be a good one throughout, but Aaron Rodgers has to play. I'm not going to change my prediction, but if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, the Vikings are going to blow this team out. That's how important Aaron Rodgers is. With or without Devontae Adams, I still have the Packers winning this game because you saw Randall Cobb, what he did last week. Jimmy Graham still hasn't been involved as much, so I expect him to step his game up a little bit. And then Geronimo Allison, he caught a big touchdown pass, had a couple big catches in that game. If Devontae Adams doesn't go, I don't think they miss a beat with that big receiver out there as well. So close game, real good game. early game, so it's going to be a good one to watch. Lambeau Field. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers gets to go. I have the Packers winning this game 20-17. Let's get to my next game. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another question here at quarterback, though. Ben Roethlisberger, who didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, finally practiced today in a limited fashion. So it looks like he will be a go Sunday. And that's another team that if he plays or not, it's going to be either a close game or they're going to get the doors blown off of them. If he plays, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, but let's talk about the Chiefs a little bit. The Chiefs were that offense that was probably one of the most explosive offenses in the AFC because we saw what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. But just sticking with the AFC, the Chiefs looked like the most explosive offense last week. When you talk about with Tyreek Hill, not just in special teams, but as a receiver, he definitely looked like the best receiver last week in football. For his size and everything, for the explosiveness that he has, and they can use him out of the backfield, that's crazy good. And you're not even mentioning Kareem Hunt, who he got the carries, but the production wasn't there. So if he gets it going, that's adding to that. You look at Travis Kelce, he only had one reception. So that's another guy that if they get going, that's going to be, man, nonstop. And they brought in the new receiver, Sammy Watkins from the Rams, who was previously with the Buffalo Bills. And he had a few catches, but still hasn't made any big plays in that week one, or didn't make any big plays in that week one. So is it going to be an offense where they just take turns? Is Tyreek Hill going to be the steady pace guy that gets, man, the bulk of the yardage, the receptions? I think it's going to be more evenly played. I think obviously Tyreek Hill is the player that's to watch when it comes to explosion plays. I think Kareem Hunt can give you a little bit of that, but I think Tyreek Hill is number one when you look at that. And you look at Travis Kelce, to me, he's got to be the most consistent. Now, last week was, I don't know if it's him and Mahomes not being on the same page, or maybe just the game plan wasn't for Kelce. Whatever they did last week, it worked. And Andy Reid, man, he's real good early on in the regular season. He's real good at tearing other teams up. So I expect both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers to put up points. But I'll give the edge to Pittsburgh because, one, they're at home, and they got the more experienced quarterback. And they're not really losing that much of a beat with Connor in as opposed to Le'Veon Bell, who still hasn't reported. And it's still looking like it's going to be at least this week and next week before he decides to report, if he reports or if he doesn't get traded. But the offense still goes by Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. It's another team. We might see explosions here because if you look at both sides, I really don't. We got two average defenses going against two great offenses, and I'm not speaking too highly by saying two great offenses because that's what they are. Two great offenses. But again, I give the slight edge to the Pittsburgh Steelers because Patrick Mahomes, again, this is his first year as a starter full time. He got a little bit of play last year towards the end of the season, but full time. So I expect growing pains. Now, he blew my mind last week. I didn't expect him to do what he did against the Los Angeles Chargers last week. So is this going to be another Deshaun Watson where I'm waiting for him to have a bad game, but it really doesn't happen? Not necessarily am I waiting for a bad game, but I think he's going to have, a hiccup here or there. Just because, again, he's just starting up in that new offense. And it's going to take a little bit for these defenses to catch up to what Patrick Mahomes does. So maybe a little bit later into the season, you might see teams catch up to what Patrick Mahomes likes to do. But I still think Patrick Mahomes is a force to be reckoned with. With that being said, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game, 27-24, another close game, another high-scoring game for NFL standards or whatnot. But if you look at last week's Tampa Bay Buccaneers New Orleans Saints game, this is low scoring compared to that. That was arena football. And I'm going to pick up my notes because I dropped them. That's just what happens. But speaking of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to host the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, who had extra 3 days off because they played in that opening Thursday night game. A real ugly game, but they were able to pull it out. A win is a win. The defending champions are still undefeated. I did drop them in my power rankings from 1 to 3 because it wasn't that impressive. And when you look at this matchup, Will Ryan Fitzpatrick continue to play? He played the type of play that he played last week. Now that was probably one of his best games in the history of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he was calling him Fitz Magic. Now I don't expect him to have that kind of game. I respect the Eagles defense a little bit more. The only difference is I don't respect the Eagles offense as much as I do the Saints offense. So it's going to be a slightly less scoring, a lot less scoring than the 48-40 game that the Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played in last week. But here it is. Here's my upset special of the week. And if you guys remember my upset special last week, I had the Cleveland Browns beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was my upset special. And it almost came into fruition, but it was a tie game, so I wasn't right, I wasn't wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that I broke even on that. I'm 0-1 when it comes to my upset special. This week's upset special, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get over the Philadelphia Eagles slightly, 22-21 in whatever fashion. Man, Fitzmagic is live and well, and if he's able to take down the Philadelphia Eagles, no one's even going to care about Jameis Winston's return. I think Fitzmagic is going to stay there until, they lose two in a row or something like that. Then they'll get antsy and they'll bring back Jameis Winston. That's just what will happen. If I were the Buccaneers, I would just stick with Fitzpatrick. I think they got to move on from Jameis Winston personally. I think Jameis Winston needs a change of scenery. I think he needs to grow up, but that's another story for another day. So again, I like the Buccaneers in this game. Not that many points. Both of these teams aren't even going to combine as many points as what the Buccaneers put up by themselves with that 48 burger that they put up on the Saints. But 22-21 Buccaneers in a somewhat entertaining game. But Nick Foles, man, he's going to do a little bit better in this game. He has to. Because Carson Wentz still isn't ready. So at some point, Nick Foles is going to have to ratchet it up a little bit. And, he's going to get his game going a little bit, but I still think Tampa Bay, they got something weird going on there. Something, I don't know, some magic stuff. Because when you look at that team, I was like, when I first had them in my rankings, I had them at number 30. 30 or 31. Don't remember where they were at, but that's how low I had them. But with that win last week, I brought them all the way up to 18. Because, I don't know, man. And he said it. Fitzpatrick said, you know what? I feel like this is the best quarterback play I've played in my whole life. And I feel the best that I've ever felt in my whole life. So, and I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of what he said. So I'm gonna take his word for it. He's a smart guy, man. He graduated from Harvard, man. You can't go against Harvard people words, So and their thoughts. But again, upset special. Buccaneers 22, Philadelphia Eagles 21. Let's get to the next game. Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, another entertaining game to watch. I feel like week 2 has more entertaining games than week 1 did. Just my personal feeling. After going through these games, Minnesota, Green Bay, duh. Kansas City and Pittsburgh, hell yeah. Philly, Tampa Bay, it's all right. You still got 2 1-0 teams, and that's my upset special. So not bad. Carolina, Atlanta, another good division game. Man, Matt Ryan versus Cam Newton. Cam Newton's 1-0. Matt Ryan's 0-1. Now, here's the thing I have with the Carolina Panthers. You told the world that you were going to utilize Christian McCaffrey a lot more than you did last year. So last year, he was averaging about 15, 16 touches a game. Last week, he had 16 touches. So what's it going to be? Are you going to utilize him more, or is it going to be the same thing? Because if the guy's going to run for 5 yards a carry, you got to give him more than 10 carries. So don't wait for this we're going to decide to bring him along slowly. Give him the 15 carries. Throw him the ball the 6 times. He needs to touch the ball minimum 20 times a game. What are you waiting for? If it works, keep going back to it. Man, just do it. Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be explosive this year. He showed flashes last year, but he's going to be a little bit more this year. And you saw a little bit of that last week. He fumbled, so maybe that's a little bit of the reason why they took him out of the game for a little while or took him out of the game plan or whatnot. But they got to utilize Christian McCaffrey. Either way, I think the Falcons at 0-1 understand that playing at home and playing against a division foe in the Carolina Panthers, who are 1-0, You cannot afford to lose this game. It's week 2. It's tough to say that these games are must wins, but when you're at home, when you're already one game behind the Panthers, and the Panthers are the team that's coming into your stadium, into your dome, you got to find a way to pull this out. And I think the Falcons will pull this out. It's going to be another entertaining game. I think these teams are going to score touchdowns. I have the Atlanta Falcons 28, the Carolina Panthers 21, and it's going to be more so for the Falcons in the air. They're going to have to beat the Carolina Panthers in the air. And that's where they have the advantage, because the Panthers, it's everything's going to go through Cam Newton. You know, he's going to look for the big play over the top, and then he's going to have Christian McCaffrey, because he doesn't have that safety blanket in Greg Olsen anymore, who refractured his foot, same injury he had last year. He's going to be out at least 8 weeks, so we'll keep you updated on that. But this is going to be the Falcons in the air. It's going to be a lot of Julio Jones again. I think they got to get Calvin Ridley up in the game a little bit, get him going. But you're looking at Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. Those are the sure things. And you got to get Calvin Ridley in the pass game. Maybe get those running backs out in the flats, because you have those linebackers with Thomas Davis, and Luke Kuechly. Same old story for the Panthers. You got those two guys, man. They're coming at you. So the Falcons in the pass game, they're going to have to do that. I think they're going to have a tough time running the ball. It's in the Dome, though. It's their home opener. Anything can happen. They can explode for 40 points. But I have the Falcons 28, the Panthers 21. Somewhat of a must-win for the Atlanta Falcons early on. Let's get to the next game. We was talking about the New Orleans Saints and how they give up 48 points and how that secondary looked horrible. Yeah, I'm not even putting it lightly. They looked wretched against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got to give it up to those receivers for Tampa Bay and obviously Fitzpatrick. But the secondary was what was their strong point last year with the two rookies they got in the secondary, and they were shutting teams down. When you look at the cornerback play and the safety play, they didn't show up last week. So are we going to see the real Saints this week against the Cleveland Browns? Because yeah, it's the Cleveland Browns, but you still got to go against Jarvis Landry, and Josh Gordon's going to get the start. You better believe they saw that game last week. They're like, man, we about to eat. So this is another big test for the New Orleans Saints. I think kind of like last week, man, you can't lose your first 2 games at home, especially to the Cleveland Browns. Tyrod Taylor, they got nothing to lose, man. They're gonna go in, they bombs away, and rightfully so. You got to test the secondary until they're able to prove that they are who they were last year and not who they were last week. That horrible secondary, just the team in all, besides Drew Brees and Kamara, it just, receivers fumbling. Michael Thomas had a pretty big game, but he still fumbled. The Saints got to kick it up a notch. I have them as my Super Bowl champion this year, so they better pick it up a notch. All these teams that I'm picking, man, they looking bad. Maybe I should start going against my opposite thinking. I picked the Ravens to beat the Bengals. That didn't happen. I had the Lions go to the playoffs. You saw what they did to the Jets on Monday night. Nothing. and man, come on. Let's make me look a little bit better. I had the Chargers, my AFC representative. Man, you can't stop the Chiefs. I understand that, but still, it's a home game. You got to figure out a way to beat the Chiefs at home if you want to take yourself seriously into that Super Bowl thing. So, but I have the Saints, man, proving a little point here, saying, you know what, last week was just, man, it's not something you're gonna see on a normal basis. Not from the Buccaneers against the Saints, but it's a division foe, so you understand that they know each other well, so nothing to lose there. I have the Saints taking care of business against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns will put up some stats from their wide receivers, but stats are stats. They're going to be behind the whole game. I got the Saints winning this one 33-17. Never a doubt. And this is probably going to be the game where it's that upset special. But, no, I got the Saints 33-17. Kamara still going to do his thing. Michael Thomas going to do his thing. And who's going to be the second receiver for the Saints? That's what I'm waiting to see. Who's going to be that second receiver that comes out and provides a little bit of spark, something to where it's not just Kamara and where it's not just Michael Thomas. That's going to be something to watch. Who's that second receiver? And here we go. Could it be Cameron Meredith? Could it be Traquan Smith? Remains to be seen, but that's going to be a good thing to watch in tomorrow's game. All these games that I'm starting with, they're all the AM games. They're the early morning games, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. I'm in the Pacific time zone, so I got to be up and early and watching these games. And, I will be. So, again, I have the Saints 33-17, and the Saints are an 8.5 point favorite. So, Las Vegas was still like, you know what? It's cool you lost that by that score 48-40. But the Browns are coming in. We know what's going to happen here. Saints going to have to blow this team out. Might be worse than 33-17, but keeping it slightly safe. But hope that doesn't turn into that other upset special. But we'll see what happens there. Indianapolis Colts at the Washington Redskins. I had trouble picking this game. But when you just look at it, you have Andrew Luck, and then you got T.Y. Hilton, and then they don't have any running backs. Jack Dole's there to help out a little bit. You kind of waiting for that second receiver to come out, whether it's Ryan Grant, whether it's Chester Rogers, who's going to come out, or are they just going to flip-flop? But blocking is still an issue for the Indianapolis Colts up front. So they're not able to run the ball. They're still not protecting Andrew Luck the way they would like. So you kind of have to wonder if Andrew Luck's gonna last this season. And you saw what the Redskins did to the Cardinals last week. The Cardinals putting up 6 points. Redskins looking like, man, the monsters of the Midway. That defense, the purple curtain or whatever they call it, the purple people eaters, the steel curtain for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, is that what the Redskins are? No, I don't think so. I just think the Cardinals are overrated. I thought they were going to be that dark horse team. But the Washington Redskins, I think they found a little recipe here with Adrian Peterson and just saying, you know what, man, we're going to give you the ball 24, 25 times. Figure it out. Pound the other team. Let's workhorse you. And that gives Alex Smith the shots to do his little passes that he likes to do. Jameson Crowder, here you go. Josh Jackson, here you go. Paul Richardson, here you go. Jordan Reed, there you go. Over the top for a touchdown. And that's the way I see it. It's going to be a close game. Andrew Luck is Andrew Luck for a reason, but I still like the Redskins because they're at home, because they got the better running game and they're committed to running. They might give the ball to Adrian Peterson 35 times, So I have the Redskins in this one, 23-20. The Redskins are a 6-point favorite. That's a little bit too rich for my blood because, again, you still got Andrew Luck over there. But I like the Redskins in this game, 23-20. And then the Colts, if that happens, they'll be down to 0-2. And that's the big thing to watch is can Andrew Luck stay healthy? That's going to be the whole season because this is that point where if Andrew Luck's not able to stay healthy, do the Colts decide to, because they're going to be a bad team if they keep losing like this or they're not able to protect Andrew Luck. So they're going to have another high draft pick, so is it damaged goods? That remains to be seen. I hope not. I hope Andrew Luck comes back full force. He took a big hit last week, and he was able to jump up from it when Shawn Williams was kicked out of the game. But, that was a good sign. But you don't want to see him taking those hits. That was not the fault of the offensive line. That was just a stupid play by Shawn Williams doing that late hit bull sugar. But Andrew Luck, that's going to be the thing to watch. Again, I like the Redskins, 23-20. Another interesting game to look into, because obviously it's an interconference game, but Redskins, I don't know who they are because they played the Cardinals. Are the Cardinals that bad or the Redskins that good? I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals being that bad. And the Colts, who looked pretty good against the Bengals until the end of the game when, the score was worse than what the actual game was because of that fumble that Jack Doyle had and homeboy took it to the house to get that 11-point win. So I don't know what the Colts are, but they're not a playoff team. I don't know what the Redskins are. I don't think they're a playoff team, but they might change my mind this week. Redskins, again, 23, Colts 20. Let's get to the next game. And this game is, I think they're lowballing the Houston Texans in this game. I think this is where the Houston Texans decide to explode. It's a division game. The game's in Tennessee, and they're only a 1 point favorite against the Tennessee Titans. I think it went up to 1.5. But that's a low ball. I don't care if it's in Tennessee. Marcus Mariota might not even play. And even if he does play, uh, oh man, Mike Vrabel, the coach, I was forgetting the name. I want to say Malarkey, but it's not Malarkey anymore. Mike Vrabel, the coach, was talking about how Mariota and Blaine Gabbert might both play. Now, I don't understand that statement. Like, is Mariota healthy or not? And if he's healthy, why would you say they're both going to play? So there's something going on there. I think that if it's like this, even if Mariota plays, I don't think he's 100%. So with that, and even if he was healthy, I'm going to give this game to the Texans. I think Deshaun Watson, man, he's going to be on fire that game with DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller's supposed to come back for this game. And Will Fuller's his deep threat. DeAndre Hopkins does everything, but Will Fuller is the deep threat. And I think they're going to utilize that. And I think that offense is going to explode. Now, my score doesn't dictate that kind of explosion, but when you're on the road and you're able to win the way I predict them to win, it's a pretty big win. So, again, whether it's Mariota or not, it's looking kind of iffy there. And just the way they utilized Derrick Henry last week, I understand it was a 7-hour game, so you really can't gauge who's what, or, is Derrick Henry that bad, or is Deion Lewis just that good? It's tough to gauge it, but I don't know. I don't think they've understood that Derrick Henry is a guy that's going to run the ball for 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard, no gain, 4 yards, no gain, 2 yards, -1, 5 yards, 3 yards, no gain, 2 yards, 70-yard run. That's what he does. And that's just, you have to have the patience. That he's just that kind of running back. He's not a running back that's going to get you 5-yard gain, 17-yard gain, 12-yard gain, 9. Nope, it's going to be short, boom, big one. That's what Derrick Henry does. He's done that his whole career. The reason why that happens is because he's a big, powerful back that has speed. So when you're pounding him, the defense is going to start to loosen up, and that's when he takes that big run, whether it's the third quarter or the fourth quarter. The Titans got to figure that out. Now, you can sprinkle in Deion Lewis here, especially in the pass game, but if you're going to decide just to take Deion Lewis and put him there and make him your featured back, and Derrick Henry putting him in that role where, like if DeMarco Murray was still there, you can't do that. That's not a recipe for success with that running back there. So, again, I don't really like what the Titans are doing offensively. They got Corey Davis. He's going to be a stud receiver. But without Mariota, you can't trust Corey Davis because Blaine Gabbert's Blaine Gabbert. With all that being said, I have the Texans winning this game 28-20. I know I probably made it sound like it was going to be 42-17, but 28-20 is still a pretty big win on the road, and the Texans getting things going here. It's a division foe. These games are usually, 17-16, 20-17. I'm going to give the Texans this one on the road. 28-20. Deshaun Watson and the offense gets things rolling. Speaking of that 7-hour game I was talking about that the Tennessee Titans went through in Miami, we have the Miami Dolphins going against the high-powered Rookie of the Year, Hall of Fame quarterback, Sam Darnold. Man, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Hold up, man. That was just one game. And it's not like he threw for 400 yards. He had a decent game for a rookie, especially after he threw that horrible interception across the field, across his body, and they returned it for a pick six, where it looked like the Lions were just going to murder the Jets. But then everything on the opposite side happened, where the Lions just unraveled because Matthew Stafford doesn't understand that he's a pretty good quarterback. And I don't know what's going on, Matt. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But Sam Darnold and the New York Jets put up 48, man. They did what the Buccaneers did, 48 on the Lions. Now, a couple of those scores were special teams and defense. But still, Isaiah Crowell ran the ball like a soldier, man. He had 10 carries for 102 yards. You want to see him get the ball a little bit more. And is that the Lions defense? Or Isaiah Crowell, I've always liked the way he runs because he runs like a violent running back. Him and Alex Collins have that where it's just violence. I'm coming at you no matter what. Where they're just wild with it. I like Isaiah Crowell running the ball. I think they got to run the ball a little bit more with Isaiah Crowell. 10 carries for 102 yards, man. Let me get a little bit more of that. I know you got Bilal Powell in there, but, dude, come on. I hate it, man. I hate it when these guys get, 8 to 12 carries and they're averaging 6 yards a carry. Why didn't they get the ball 20 times? That's the way it used to be. Bring that stuff back. I almost said a bad word. I almost said bull sugar, but the other word. Bring that stuff back. If a running back's getting you 6, 7 yards of carry, man, do that. It was back in the day where running backs would run for 4 yards of carry, and that was great. We're gonna run him 25 times, he's gonna get you 100 yards. That's a recipe for success, especially for a young quarterback. Don't expect Sam Darnold to carry you all season long. That's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen in this game. Miami Dolphins, man. I know it's like, man, how could you pick the Dolphins over the Jets? Don't get carried away from week one. He's still a rookie quarterback. The Dolphins now have tape on Sam Darnold, and I expect the Dolphins to attack Darnold differently. And they understood that Todd Bowles understood that the Detroit Lions run the same kind of sets, and he was able to read their offense, and that's why the defense played so well against Matthew Stafford. Adam Gase is no slouch. Now, he probably doesn't have all the talent around him, but Adam Gase is not going to let that happen, and not to a division foe. He's going to bring his best. Ryan Tannehill, not too bad in his return. You still have to wonder what level of play can Ryan Tannehill get to. That remains to be seen because he's another guy that's always injured. So can he continue this kind of play? You like the running game with Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore. Frank Gore, again, he had a pretty good game. A guy that had minimal carries but still got 60 yards. Give him the ball, man. These guys are averaging at least 7, 8 yards. You keep giving them the ball. And receiving wise, you wonder if Devontae Parker's going to play because he didn't play last week. He's going to help out. He's still a bust because he was supposed to be better than what he's shown, but he still has a chance this year. He's going to be the supposed to be the main guy there, but that's proven to be Kenny Stills. Now you got Amendola there. You got Albert Lewis from Kansas City, who's also another slot receiver. And then you got, Kareem Grant, or am I saying that right? Akeem Grant or Kareem Grant? Something like that. But, man, Grant, return game and the little dump, he can hit you over the top too, But I like the Dolphins in this game. It's going to be a close game. The Jets are going to be respectable, but I'm gonna give it to the Dolphins. I think they'll figure out ways to make life tough for Sam Darnold. I got them 24, Jets 19, and my mother she gave me all kinds of grief because I was talking about how the Jets are horrible and how the Lions are just gonna do what they want with them. And she was like, I thought you said the Jets were horrible, man. I thought you knew what you were talking about. And I'm like, man, I didn't know the Lions sucked that bad. But yeah, I give props to the Jets for doing what they did on that Monday night. I expect the Dolphins to have a better showing. I like the Dolphins 24-19. And the Jets are the favorites, man. When was the last time you heard that? They're a 3-point favorite. So basically, when you look at favorites and how many points they're favored by, when you're the home team, when Vegas can't pick, if it's a pickup, like if they don't know who's gonna win, the home team will be a 3-point favorite. That's the minimum. So whenever you see a 3-point favorite, that's just because they're the home team and they don't know who's really gonna win. And when it's anything less than that, then they give the edge to the other team. So that's just a little tidbit that I put out there. Home team always gets at least 3 points, and then from there it depends on how they feel. But the Jets are a 3-point favorite, so they're viewing this game as anybody could win, which it rightfully so. I mean, it is. The Jets aren't as bad as what I thought, but they're still not as good as what they showed on Monday. And the Dolphins, I have no clue. But I'm gonna predict that they're gonna beat the Jets 24-19. And then the last game in the morning, my AFC champion pick. Chargers, man, you got to make me look right here. And I'm not talking about beating the Buffalo Bills 17-10. Don't come out with that bull sugar. I don't want to see none of that. The Chargers got to come out firing. Now, I'm a Bronco fan. I'm just keeping it real. If the Bills win, fine, great. For the division, I'm loving it. But for the sake of me being right, Chargers, just do something here. Prove to the world that you're a worthy opponent. Not by winning by a field goal, not by winning by a touchdown, but win by at least 2 touchdowns. And that's what I expect. Buffalo Bills are going to start Josh Allen 47-3 last week, man, against the Baltimore Ravens, who lost to the Bengals. Don't read too much into that. It is what it is. But Buffalo Bills 47-3, man. Like that was horrible. And but they got the 3 points when Josh Allen came in the game. So that's probably the bright spot of the Buffalo Bills. We're like, you know what? Let's throw him in there. I was thinking he should have started last week, but maybe you don't want to mess up his confidence. It's the same thing. You're bringing him in a game that's already 40-0. You're gonna, hey, go do something. Like he has nothing to gain from that. If anything, you're gonna get him hurt because the defense is like, we're up 40-0. We can just rush the passer all day. We don't care what they call. There's no 40-point playing football. There's not even a 9-point playing football. So let's just go back there and tear that dude up. He was able to get 3 points in the quarter and a half that he played. But 47-3, you have to wonder if the Bills are really that horrible. Man, it's not looking good for Buffalo. I truly believe they are the worst team in football at this point, and I think it will be that way for the remainder of the season. So with that being said, Chargers got to bounce back in a big way. No excuses here. They have firepower on offense. Mike Williams finally busted out last week, for what Mike Williams has done, because he was a first round draft pick last year, wide receiver. He had about 5 receptions for 80 yards. He's starting to come out of his shell, but you already got Keenan Allen there. You got Tyrell Williams there. And with that, you got Melvin Gordon in the run game. You got Austin Eckler in the run game. Phillip Rivers, obviously. Joey Bosa still doesn't look like he's ready, but they're not going to need him for this game. And even if he was, I would just hold him out. Like, there's no reason for you to play. It's like a preseason game for you. So I like the Chargers early and often. I got them beating the Buffalo Bills 31-13. Yes, the Bills put up 13 points. Their offense explodes for a touchdown and 2 field goals. Josh Allen, player of the week. Not really. 31-13, Los Angeles Chargers over the Buffalo Bills. And that caps the morning games. But hold the phone. We still got afternoon games. And the afternoon games, man, well, man, maybe they're all right. I think they're pretty cool because my team plays in the afternoon. But just looking at it, the whole week 2 is incredible. Football in general is incredible. Now, for those of you that watch college football, that's tomorrow. I watch some of the big games. I understand who's, leading and whatnot when you talk about the polls. But we won't start talking about college football on this show until we get to week 6, week 7. Once the real rankings start coming out, once teams start to separate themselves, and once things get good. It's too early right now. Teams can lose still at this point and still make it to the Bowl Championship Series playoffs. Because you lose early, you get on a streak, you have a shot, depending on what happens above you. But that's college football. We'll get into that next month. We're not going to talk about that in September. That's just me. That's what I do. But let's get to these late games. And let's be real with it. This is probably the game of the day. A rematch of the AFC Championship game. Now, some parts might be missing. That remains to be seen. You talk about the New England Patriots going to Jacksonville for a rematch of the AFC Championship game. There might not be Leonard Fournette, and that's going to be big. It's going to be a game time decision. Still dealing with that hamstring, and them hamstring things. It just goes away one day. But if you're not careful, then you'll come back and you'll be out 2 weeks instead of 1. So you have to wonder what the Jacksonville Jaguars will decide there. If he doesn't go, it's going to be T.J. Yeldon. Obviously, somewhat of a drop off, but I do like Yeldon better in the pass game than I do Fournette. But run game, it's not even close. Fournette is a beast. So that's going to impact the game. But here's the thing. Jacksonville doesn't win on offense. Never have, and until they prove otherwise, never will. Yeah, there's games where, Fournette will have 2 or 3 touchdowns and they'll put up 30 points. But that's because of the position the defense puts them in. It's all about the defense. Yeah, it's all about the Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
Yeah, so that's the bottom line. It's just about the defense. And I don't see it any different here. Tom Brady, and even in the AFC Championship game, just when you look at Tom Brady in the past against teams with great defenses, he struggles. He's usually scoring points in the teens, might get to 20. And when you look at his weapons, he still got Gronk, but they lost Jeremy Hill. Rex Burkhead looking like he's not going to play. Is Sony Michel going to play tomorrow? So you're looking at James White and possibly Sony Michel. First game action, possibly. Still not a sure thing. They picked up Corey Coleman on Tuesday, but you have to wonder, is he going to be ready for Sunday's game? That remains to be seen. They also signed Benny Fowler, but not going to be too much of a factor early on. He might sprinkle in some passes. But you still got Philip Dorsett, who played pretty good last week, had 7 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. Chris Hogan, who is now their number one by default. So, and Cordero Patterson, he's that wild card because not necessarily is he going to be the threat in the passing game, but he can be the threat in the trick play. They can use him on reverses. So he can just make that one big play and change the whole outlook of a game. But with that being said, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this game. Now they're a 1 point underdog. The Patriots are 1 point favorite, which basically means Vegas thinks the Patriots will win by like 4 points. But they got to keep it safe. They got to keep it at 1 point favorite. Jacksonville 1 point underdogs. But I think they don't need any points. We don't need the 1 point. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, I think the defense is going to be loaded. Jalen Ramsey is going to be doing some things. AJ Bouye and the secondary going to be doing things. Barry Church, man, he's that good linchpin coming in, making those tackles like if he was a linebacker. And you already know about that defensive line, man. That defensive line is ridiculous. So, I don't even got to put it out there, but Calais Campbell, however you want to say his name, Malik Jackson, and the crew, they don't have a spot where you say we can attack this and we'll be successful. It's not going to work. And you used to say, well, you can go to Rob Gronkowski and it doesn't matter. But Jalen Ramsey is going to prove otherwise. I still think Gronkowski is going to be the best receiver in the game just because he has to be. But it's going to be tough pickings with Jalen Ramsey on him for the majority of the game. Obviously, Gronkowski will have his spots, but I'm not cutting Rob Gronkowski short. If you do fantasy football, that doesn't mean you bench. No, you play to do. He's still freaking Rob Gronkowski. He could end up with like 5 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. You never know. Or he can end up with 6 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. Or he can end up with 4 catches for 35 yards and no touchdowns. But I doubt that part. Still, with all that being said, I think Blake Bortles is going to play a smart game. He's going to understand I don't have to do everything. I'm going to pick my little passes, dump off to the running back, take off and run when I need to run. And I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars have to score on defense. They need 1 score on defense to get this victory. I'm going to give them that. I give the Jacksonville Jaguars the victory 26-20 over Tom Brady and the Patriots. The Patriots, they're going to give you a game early on. So this is the best time to do it and the best time to take advantage if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. So again, Jacksonville 26, Patriots 20, game of the week, AFC Championship rematch. Might see these two teams in the playoffs again. Maybe Leonard Fournette will be there. Still might be there for this game. A game time decision. So not making any proclamations there whether he's going to play or not. Not sure. A hamstring thing. Again, no one knows if he's going to play. And if you're the Jaguars, and that's another thing I want to talk about. A lot of people call them the Jaguars. They're not the Jaguars. They're the Jaguars. Wars, like wars. Like when you jump on Mars, Jaguars. So Leonard Fournette, even if he's ready to go, Jacksonville's not going to say he's ready to go. Or if they already know he's not going to play, they're not going to say he's not going to play. They're going to make New England wait until maybe 5-10 minutes before the whole what's it called? The players that are going to play or not, the active and inactive list comes out, which is I think it's like an hour before the game. So I think they have to come out with it. Or maybe he suits up and doesn't play. It just depends. Do they want to have an extra body or not? That remains to be seen. But I'm getting too much into that. Leonard Fournette, a big deal, but whether he plays or not, it is what it is. Jacksonville 26, New England 20. Big win for Jacksonville. Not a big deal for New England. Another teaching point for Bill Belichick. It might serve him good to get on these dudes, you know what, and keep going from there because you know New England's going to be there at the end of the day, whether it be the AFC Championship game, possibly a Super Bowl. We'll see what happens because they always are. I mean, let's be real with it. Detroit at San Francisco. Yeah, it's kind of a messed up way to go from, the Patriots in Jacksonville to Detroit and San Francisco. Two 0-1 teams. 0-1 for different reasons. The 49ers are 0-1 because they played against a great Minnesota Vikings team in Minnesota. And Jimmy G did throw 3 interceptions, but it's just one of those days, He still threw 2 touchdowns, but just one of those days. They still lost by 1 score. They didn't get blown out or nothing like that. To where Matthew Stafford, holy moly, 4 interceptions and you lose to the Jets 48-17. That's ridiculous. I was talking about before the season, in the preseason, how Matthew Stafford, this was the year, how he had to do something because I was tired of seeing Matthew Stafford over and over again get the high accolades and talked about like he's a top 10 receiver or a quarterback. I don't know why I said receiver. Top 10 quarterback, but hasn't won a playoff game, dude. Been to the playoffs twice. That's it. And when it comes to big games, this is the whole thing I was talking about, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton. He has that Andy Dalton syndrome. But at least Andy Dalton gets to the playoffs 4 times. Matthew Stafford, he's all about stats. And that's what they need to change his name to Matthew Statford because that's all he does. And that's what he didn't even do that on Monday. 4 interceptions. Now, again, that's an aberration. I don't believe that's who the Detroit Lions are. But Matt Patricia, he's on watch, man. This is it. He is a rookie coach, but people will think, well, it's okay. He might go 2-14. No. If that happens, he's out of here. When you talk about the Detroit Lions, he's out of that organization. They brought in Matt Patricia because they said we need someone that's going to provide the winning way because that's all we were missing. This isn't a team that was 3-13 last year. This isn't a team that's the bottom barrel team. No, they've always been an average team to slightly above average when Matthew Stafford decides to be that. So they didn't bring him in to rebuild. They brought him in to take him to the next level, to get him to the playoffs, which is why I picked them to make the playoffs and knock out the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm looking kind of ugly on that. But I believe that was an aberration. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for both sides to get it together when you talk about rookie head coach, veteran quarterback. Man, you have weapons on the offensive side. I do not know why the Lions do not like to run the ball. I don't get it. They have bodies to run the ball, but for some reason they don't like running it. Whether they're up or down, it's like Stafford wants to throw the ball 48, 50 times. You have, yeah, he's an older running back, journeyman, but he can carry the rock. You got Amir Abdullah, who has yet to break into the scene, but you still got Amir Abdullah. You got Theo Riddick, who's a pass catching running back. Do something with Theo Riddick. And then you got Kerryon Johnson, a rookie. Utilize him, man. You got 4 decent running backs. And one in Kerryon Johnson, who I think can carry the load. But you can't carry the load if you don't decide to give him the ball. Man, the theme of today's show is give your running backs the ball. They're going to carry you to the promised land. Do that, especially early on. Let Matthew Stafford figure out what's going on in his head in the passing game. Run the ball. Run the ball. Try to run the ball against his 49er defense. And Jimmy G, again, not too great of a game in Minnesota, but that's all right. Nothing to be ashamed of. You lost in Minnesota. You're back home. Now it's time to prove to the world why you're Jimmy G. And I believe he will. I like the 49ers in this game. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I got the Niners 35, Detroit Lions 27. But Matt Patricia, on the lookout, man. You give up 48 to the Jets. And if this score happens, you give up 35 to the 49ers. You came in there for defense. And just after that score, it's not looking like that. Heads might have to roll early on. That's just me speaking out loud. I mean, that's just what I do. Thinking out loud is what I wanted to say. But San Francisco 35, Detroit 27. Kyle Shanahan's going to have that offense going. Kyle Shanahan's a quarterback guru. And Jimmy G is a good quarterback, soon to be great quarterback. So I expect them to put up points and get this victory at home and start that roll because, again, I have both of these teams making the playoffs. So I got to pick one. I got the 49ers beating the Lions. That's just what it is. I think the Lions are in trouble. I think I'm in trouble for picking the Lions to get to the playoffs. But it's a long season. Week 2. Breathe. Goose Fraba. That's what Lions need to do. They need to wake up. But San Francisco 35, Detroit 27. Oakland Raiders, Chuck E. Cheese, Derek broken car, broken down car, going to Mile High Stadium. I'm calling it Mile High Stadium. They don't have a sponsor. We're calling it Mile High Stadium. Oakland Raiders going to Mile High Stadium to go against Case Keenum, Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, and that Denver defense, the new Orange Crush. This game's over. It's a wrap. I don't care what anybody says. I'm already counting my chickens. You know, I got like 30 eggs over there. I'm going to get 30 chickens. I'm going to get 30 chickens out of this game from the Denver Broncos. The Raiders, personally, they're done. To me, they're checked out. To me, John Gruden does not like Derek Carr. And to me, Derek Carr does not like playing quarterback anymore. Hasn't shown any growth since that wonderful season he had a couple years ago. Broke his leg. Last year, broke his back against this defense. And it seems like he's just waiting to get hit. And it seems like he's just content with giving it to the running back, giving it to the tight end, which could be an issue because the Broncos can't stop that kind of play. But they'll figure that part out. Jared Cook is not going to have 180 yards in this game like he did against the Rams. And if he did, then there might be issues there. Big issues. But he's not going to have that type of game. The Raiders did re-sign Martavis Bryant to a 1-year deal. And mainly because John Gruden wants to throw the ball downfield. That's what Martavis Bryant brings you. Now, Amari Cooper could do the same, but for some reason, Derek Carr doesn't like looking to Amari Cooper's side. And John Gruden kind of threw a Derek Carr under the bus when he was like, because they had asked him, do you plan on utilizing Amari Cooper more, or why can't you get him involved in the game? And John Gruden's response, it's paraphrasing, but it's that we would like to get him more involved. But if you look at it, there was a couple times where he was open downfield, but for some reason we didn't get him the ball. Uh-oh. That's you throwing it right to the quarterback right there. You better start doing something. I don't see it in Derek Carr. I've been saying this over and over again. He's not what everybody thinks he is. You know, he'll show flashes. He'll have a beautiful drive, but then that's it. And that's what's going to happen on Sunday. Denver defense is going to be flying around. Broncos going to have no issues. Them 30 eggs going to turn into 30 points. And the Raiders will put up a little bit of points, but not enough. Denver Broncos all the way, 30-18, starting off 2-0. Burying the Raiders 0-2. The Raiders already think about Las Vegas. That's what they think of. That's what John Gruden is talking about. He's ready to go to Vegas. Now, here's a little side note. Derek Carr, and that big-ass contract that he got, the one that I made fun on Facebook, talking about he made $125 million, and the coach makes $100 million, and they can only score 13 points. The Raiders, in that contract, have a clause where they can opt out of it after this year. So I'm telling you right now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. Derek Carr will not be on the Raiders team next year. He will not be the quarterback for the Raiders. John Gruden wants his own quarterback. He don't want Derek Carr. And Derek Carr don't want to be there either. So if I'm the Cowboys, and I'm jumping to another wagon, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm like, thank you, Dak Prescott. You're good to go. I bring in Derek Carr. That's my quarterback. And maybe Jason Garrett can be a little bit nicer to Derek Carr, because Derek Carr needs to be pampered, and he'll do that. So just throwing it out there, Derek Carr, that there's a way the Raiders can get out of that contract after this year and not lose all that money. I expect them to do so, especially after this loss, going 0-2 in that division, looking like the Denver Broncos are going to be 2-0 and alone in the AFC West. I'm unbiased. I'm just keeping it real. I just think the Broncos are a better team than the Raiders. That's just what it is. If they prove me wrong, then I'll be the first one to say that I was wrong. Like I was wrong when I picked the Ravens over the Bengals. But I'm not going to be wrong. 30 eggs right there. That's 30 chickens. That's 30 points. I talk about chickens because Von Miller loves chickens. And Von Miller loves in some sacks. Denver Broncos 30-18. I guarantee that. See, I rhymed, but you aren't paying attention. Put these things together. And in the last game in the afternoon, probably going to be the snooze fest. Not because it's not going to be exciting, but it's just going to be one-sided in my point of view. Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Rams home opener. You saw what they did in Oakland. They was like, they was messing around in the first half. Oh, we're down 13-10. Oh, shucks. All right, let's start to play. Let's beat the Raiders 23-0 in the second half. And I'm not trying to beat on the Raiders, but this is just part of the story. Rams 33, Raiders 13. Cardinals could only put 6 points on the Redskins at home. What a home opener. That's disgusting. I expected a little bit more, but I guess they have issues on that team. When Larry Fitzgerald is your only receiver, which, at some point the dude ages, he's still going to get his 6, 7, 8 catches. But when he's your best player catching the ball, you're going to have issues. David Johnson, he got his contract the day before the game. Maybe he was a little bit too excited and wasn't able to perform because he didn't perform in that game against the Washington Redskins. He was outperformed by Grandpa Adrian Peterson. Good stuff, AP. But the Cardinals, not looking good. And when does Josh Rosen get put in this? Man, throw him in. What is Sam Bradford going to prove to you that's going to keep Josh Rosen out of these games? Now, I believe if everything holds true and the Rams do what I believe they're going to do to the Cardinals, I don't even got to talk about the Rams. They got everybody on defense. The Rams on defense are like the Jaguars. Probably not as good when it comes to stopping teams, but when you look at the talent, just as good. Whether it's the secondary, whether it's the defensive line, I think they got the best defensive line in football. Talent-wise. You got Brockers, you got Aaron Donald, you got Ndamukong. Dude, come on. That's ridiculous. So if everything holds true, and my score holds true, because I got the Rams winning this one 37-13, that's a blowout. And hey, good job for the Cardinals putting up 13 points after only putting up 6. You're making some progress. Not so much defensively, but you are playing against the Rams. This is their home opener. I expect the Rams to come out firing. Boom, 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 boom. Gurley. Over the top, Cooks, touchdown. Gurley, breaks it, touchdown. Gurley. Robert Woods. Oh, there's Cooper Kupp, touchdown. Oh, welcome to the game, Arizona Cardinals. You're down 21-0. So, Cardinals, if this holds true, you got to go with Josh Rosen sooner rather than later. You drafted him in the first round for a reason. He fell to you for a reason. You wanted him for a reason. And to me, I've said it since day one, he's the best quarterback to come out of that rookie group. You 0-2, and the way you lost, now it depends who you play next week. I haven't seen the schedule. But let's get Josh Rosen going if everything holds the form like I'm saying when it comes to the Rams beating down the Arizona Cardinals, which I believe that's going to happen. Again, Los Angeles Rams 37, Arizona Cardinals 13. I'm sorry, Arizona people. Don't hate me. I know I live in the state, but I'm just keeping it real, giving y'all what y'all need. And it is what it is. I hate saying that, but for some reason I say it. Stop saying that stuff. I hate saying it is what it is, but it just happens. It is what it is. Sunday Night Football, what many one might say is the game of the week because you have the team from New York and you got America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, who Landon Collins said, you know what? We're the team that wears red, white, and blue. We're America's team. They're not America's team, you know. And he was talking about how we want Dak Prescott to throw the ball. We're not worried about Dak Prescott. We're worried about Ezekiel Elliott. We know that's the guy to stop. Dak, go ahead and throw whoever you're going to throw to. Well, that's easy to say when he doesn't have anybody to throw to. And Dak was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'll be ready. And that's going to be interesting because you have two teams that are 0-1 in the NFC East. And if ever there was a game early on in the season where it was a must win and it was posed to both teams, the question was posed to both. This is a game because the Giants, they're that team that everyone has, not everyone, but a lot of people have high hopes for, especially offensively, with the addition of Saquon Barkley, with the growth of Evan Ingram, with Odell Beckham coming back, Sterling Shepard still in the fold. And they fixed the line a little bit. You know, they still got to figure out what the heck's going on with Eric Flowers because he's just a horrible tackle. He went from left tackle to right tackle. Now the right side is just horrible. So they got to figure that part out. But that's probably the weakest part. And some people say, well, no, Eli Manning's the weakest part. No, Eli Manning is who Eli Manning is. You know, he's going to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns and throw an interception. He's like, he's the worst quarterback ever. He just is what he is. Like, he's not the greatest quarterback ever, but he's not the worst quarterback ever. You know, and it's hard for me to ever find a week where he was like the best quarterback that week in the entire league. You know, he just kind of sits in the middle, just kind of like chills. But let that team get to the playoffs and he'll show you who he is. But that's the thing, getting to the playoffs, Giants don't do that much. So who is it a must win for? Is it the Cowboys, who lost to the Panthers, had no offense, scored 8 points, Ezekiel Elliott couldn't get the ball going on the ground, Dak Prescott couldn't throw a ball past 6 yards, Cole Beasley was your leading receiver. That's a recipe for disaster. So who needs this win more? I was listening to a lot of people throughout the week talking about how it's the Cowboys need it more because it's at home. They're 0-1, and if they go 0-2, the ship's gonna, people are gonna jump out the ship. I think otherwise. I think it's a bigger game for the New York Giants because of the expectations, because of who they're playing, and you cannot start off 0-2. You cannot lose to the Dallas Cowboys when the expectations, personally, were to fight for the division and to be that team to contend in the playoffs. You lose to a team like the Dallas Cowboys, that's when doubt comes in. That's why it's a must-win for the New York Giants. You can't lose to this team because then you're going to ask yourself, who the heck are we going to beat? We can't beat the Cowboys, who have no receivers. No receivers. Again, they signed Allen Hurns. He was supposed to be number 1. Yeah, he had number 1 catch for 20 yards. That's what he did. Cole Beasley was a leading receiver, man. Cole Beasley is not Wes Welker. He is not Julian Edelman. Man, I wanted to say Danny Woodhead, but he's not even that. But he's all right. But he should be the 3rd best receiver on your team, not your number 1. Let's be real with it. So who's going to step up? I don't see anybody doing it. Sooner or later, Michael Gallup will be stepping up, and he could fit into that number 2 role at some point. But they don't have a number 1. He's not on the team right now. And then Des Bryant's in Jerry Jones' specific box, in his personal box, watching the Jay-Z Beyonce concert. You wonder what's going on there. Just bring him back. You're not going to lose nothing by bringing him back. You know, he's going to get you 3 catches for 47 yards. It's better than what the other guys are providing you. So you have to wonder what's going to happen there. Is there still a love affair going on there? But at the end of the day, this game has to be won by the Giants. It would be a bigger loss for the Giants than a bigger loss for the Cowboys because the Cowboys, they're in shambles right now. I think if the Cowboys win this game, it's huge. I think it's a shocker, and I'm not because I'm not poking fun at any Cowboy fans. I'm just keeping it real. What I saw last week was just, I didn't know what to expect from that team. And I talked about it all offseason. I don't know what to expect from the Cowboys. I like their defense, and they showed it. Defense played good against the Carolina Panthers. They weren't too bad. I said, I trust the defense way more than I do the offense. Because, yeah, they got Ezekiel Elliott. But to me, if you can't have somewhat of a passing game, Ezekiel Elliott is for naught. So you can key on him. So Dak Prescott's going to have to step his game up. Because if not, he's not going to be Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboy quarterback anymore. He's going to be Dak Prescott, backup quarterback for the New York Jets next year. Something like that if he doesn't step his game up. With all that being said, because I think the Giants have to win this game, it's going to be a close game because they always are. Sunday Night Football. I got the New York Giants pulling this one out 24-20. Man, it's one of them games. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter. You know, if you're a fan of either team, you kind of hope you would just demolish the other one quick. But it's not what's going to happen. It's going to be a fourth quarter game. I got the Giants 24, Cowboys 20. I think the Giants offense is going to start to get going, but I still respect the Cowboys defense. So 24 is a good number at this point. And I'm giving the Cowboys 20 for the simple fact that they're at home and they got to do something. They got to show something offensively. They're going to have to pull Rabbit out of the hat, do whatever it takes, put Ezekiel, have him jump into that little thing that he was at, the Salvation Army thing, all that good stuff. But New York Giants 24, Dallas Cowboys 20. Monday Night Football, two teams that barely lost last week. Two teams that, hey, don't make a big deal about it. One team lost to Aaron Rodgers. That's Aaron Rodgers, even though you were up 20-0, which probably freaking hurts if you're the Chicago Bears or a Chicago Bears fan. Trubisky's going to be fine. Do not worry about Trubisky. The guy is a leader, and he's slowly getting better each time he goes out to the field. And the Bears are a young team on both sides of the ball. And you picked up Khalil Mack. It's going to take a little bit of time. You know, be respectable this year in games, but next year you can start talking about wild card playoffs, contending for that division. If Mitch Trubisky does what I expect him to do, to continue to get better slowly but surely. And they're doing the right thing. He's playing, man. He's doing, they're putting him in situations and he has to figure it out. He's got the run game for it. Young receivers with Allen Robinson out there, but still going to grow. And I believe they have the makings of a pretty good team next season. Seattle Seahawks lost a tough one to the Denver Broncos. There's no problem losing to Denver in Denver. That's a tough place to play, especially first game of the season, especially with Earl Thomas barely coming back in the middle of the week. And he had a pick in that game because Case Keenum was like, you get a pick, you get a pick, and you get a pick, looking like Oprah giving out gifts. Case Keenum better step his game up this week, though, and I expect he will because he likes to clean up his mistakes. He works. He's not Derek Carr. But anyways, Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. He plays big time in primetime games. He likes to come out when the lights are out. That's when he shows, he puts on the cape, does what he does. Run game pretty decent with Chris Carson, Rashard Penny. Not too bad. Passing game, kind of iffy, but Russell Wilson makes it work. Brandon Marshall's going to have to make some plays there for the Seattle Seahawks like he did last week. But at the end of the day, I like the Chicago Bears in this game. Monday Night Football, Chicago is going to put up 24. The Seahawks going to put up 21. Mitch Trubisky is going to get them down in the fourth quarter. They're going to be down 21-17. Mitch Trubisky is going to drive them. Then from 6 yards out, he's going to bootleg and run it into the end zone with like 32 seconds. I'm giving y'all details. And if that happens, man, y'all better ask me for them lottery numbers. But anyways, I got the Bears winning this one, 24-21 in a great game, Monday Night Football. Not too bad of a game, you know. When you looked at it on paper before the season, you're like, man, Bears, man, Seahawks. But the Seahawks are better than what you think. And the Bears are a team that's going to be good sooner rather than later. Just not this year. But Khalil Mack's Khalil Mack. He gives you that prime time factor. Mitch Trubisky's going to continue to get better. With all that being said, and we in for a hell of a weekend when you talk about football. And that's every weekend. But week 2 is going to be better than week 1. Easily. So hopefully you guys are going to be sitting back, kicking your feet up, got all your snacks, got all your drinks, gonna get fat. It's cheat day on Sunday. We do it all. We eating donuts. We eating burgers. We eating pizza. We eating candy bars. We popping cold ones. Enjoy your football Sunday. Enjoy your Monday Night Football. Sunday night football. Enjoy all of it. Have a hell of a time. If you watch college football, enjoy that. Enjoy the fight tomorrow night. I said I wasn't going to talk about other sports, but that's all I'm going to say. Enjoy the fight tomorrow night. Be smart this weekend. Have fun. This is the Fast Break Sports Hour. Thank you for joining me. You guys have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday to talk about all the action and see who came out with the satisfaction of a victory. You know, that's how we do it. Fast Break Sports Hour. Thank you for joining me.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
Oh, because Stone Cold said so. And with that, we got to finish it off with, oh man, you know we got to finish it off with this. No question whatsoever that we finish it off with this. And it has to come up with an ad. Why the heck does it do that? I don't like the ads, but it's all good. Boom. Let's go. Football Sunday, full effect. I'm out.